The voice in your head is lying to you. It whispers when you're alone. It gets louder when you're tired. And the most dangerous part? It sounds like you. You wake up with it. You carry it through your day. It tells you you're not enough, not ready, not capable. It replays your past like a broken record and paints your future in fear. And slowly, quietly, it begins to shape your reality. But here's the truth no one told you. Your thoughts are not facts. And today, you're going to learn how to kill the ones that are destroying you. Because if you don't, they will kill your potential, your peace, and the life you were meant to live. There's a silent war happening inside you every single day. No one sees it. No one hears it. But you feel it. It's the war between who you are, and who your thoughts are trying to convince you that you are. And most people lose this war before they even realize it has started. They accept every negative thought as truth. They sit with it. Feed it. Nurture it. Until it becomes their identity. I'm not good enough. I always fail. Nothing ever works for me. And just like that, a thought becomes a belief. Then a belief becomes a pattern. Then a pattern becomes your life. But what if I told you that you've been living under the control of something that isn't even real? Toxic thoughts don't come to inform you. They come to control you. They don't come with evidence. They come with emotion. And emotion, when unchecked, becomes a weapon against you. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from trying, because of something you thought might happen? How many opportunities have you missed because your mind convinced you that you would fail? How many times have you doubted yourself, when you were actually capable? That's not reality. That's mental sabotage. And it's been running your life for far too long. But here's where everything begins to change. You are not your thoughts. Let that sink in. Just because a thought appears in your mind, doesn't mean it belongs to you. Just because you feel something, doesn't mean it's true. Your mind is a generator. It produces thousands of thoughts every single day. Some useful. Some meaningless. And some, deeply toxic. But the mistake most people make, is believing all of them. They never question the voice. They never challenge the narrative. They never stop to ask, is this even true? And because of that, they stay stuck. But not you. Not anymore. Because the moment you begin to observe your thoughts, instead of obeying them, you take your power back. It starts small. You catch a thought that says, I can't do this. And instead of accepting it, you pause. You question it. Why can't I? And suddenly, the thought begins to lose its power. Because toxic thoughts rely on one thing. Your silence. They grow stronger when you don't challenge them. They thrive when you believe them without question. But the moment you confront them, they begin to fall apart. This is where discipline begins. Not in your actions. But in your mind. Because before you can control your life, you must first control your thoughts. And that doesn't mean eliminating every negative idea. That's impossible. It means choosing which thoughts deserve your attention, and which ones deserve to be ignored. Because attention is fuel. And whatever you focus on, grows. If you focus on fear, fear grows. If you focus on doubt, doubt grows. If you focus on failure, failure becomes your expectation. But if you shift your focus, even slightly, everything begins to change. Now here's the hard truth. Killing toxic thoughts is not comfortable. Because those thoughts have been with you for a long time. They feel familiar. They feel safe. Even when they hurt you. Letting them go feels like losing a part of yourself. But that's exactly what growth requires. You cannot become a stronger version of yourself while holding on to the mindset that kept you weak. You have to let it die. You have to stop entertaining the voice that tells you to quit. You have to stop agreeing with the part of you that fears discomfort. Because that voice is not trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you small. And small is where dreams go to die. So what do you do instead? You build awareness. You become conscious of every thought that enters your mind. Not obsessed, but aware. You start noticing patterns. The same doubts. The same fears. The same negative loops. And once you see them clearly, you can break them. Because you cannot change what you're not aware of. And awareness is the beginning of control. Now imagine this. Every time a toxic thought appears, instead of accepting it, you replace it. Not with blind positivity, but with truth. A thought says, "You always fail." You respond, "That's not true. I've succeeded before." A thought says, "You're not good enough." You respond, "I'm improving every day." A thought says, "Don't try." You respond, "Trying is how I grow." This is how you fight back. Not with emotion, but with intention. Because your mind listens to what you repeatedly tell it. And over time, new thoughts become new beliefs. New beliefs become new patterns. And new patterns become a new life. But it doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when the old voice comes back stronger. Days when doubt feels louder than confidence. Days when quitting feels easier than continuing. And in those moments, that's where your real strength is tested. Because killing toxic thoughts is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. A constant choice. A commitment to yourself. To not go back to the mindset that once held you hostage. And here's something most people don't realize. Toxic thoughts don't just affect your mind. They affect your actions. They affect your energy. They affect the way people perceive you. Because what you believe shows in your posture, in your voice, in your decisions. So when you change your thoughts, you change everything. You walk differently. You speak differently. You show up differently. And suddenly, opportunities that once felt out of reach start coming closer. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And that's the power you've had all along. But you have to use it. You have to decide that your mind will no longer be a place where negativity thrives. That your thoughts will no longer control your life. That from this moment forward, you are in charge. And if you've made it this far, it means something inside you is ready to change. So don't ignore that feeling. Don't go back to the old patterns. Because this is your turning point. And before we go deeper into this transformation, take a moment and make a decision. A real one. Not just words, but commitment. Because in this part, we're going to break down exactly how to rewire your mind, how to build mental discipline, and how to completely eliminate the patterns that have been holding you back for years. But before you continue, if you're serious about transforming your mindset, make sure you subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this is just the beginning of a new way of thinking, a new way of living, and a new version of you. Now that you've made the decision, everything changes. Because the moment you decide to take control of your mind, you step into a level of responsibility most people spend their entire lives avoiding. There is no more blaming your past. No more blaming people. No more blaming circumstances. From this point forward, you either train your mind, or your mind trains you. And understand this clearly. An untrained mind will always default to negativity. It will always choose comfort over growth. It will always try to pull you back into the familiar, even if the familiar is destroying you. That's why so many people stay stuck. Not because they can't change, but because they never build the discipline to control what's happening inside their own head. And discipline is where this transformation becomes real. Because killing toxic thoughts is not just about awareness anymore. It's about action. It's about what you do the moment negativity shows up. Because it will show up. Not once. Not twice. But over and over again. And every single time, you have two choices. Entertain it. Or eliminate it. There is no middle ground. Because the moment you entertain a toxic thought, you give it permission to stay. You give it space to grow. You give it control over your emotions. And once it controls your emotions, it controls your actions. But when you eliminate it, immediately, without negotiation, you break the cycle. This is where most people fail. They hesitate. They sit with the thought. They analyze it too much. They feel it too deeply. And before they realize it, they've already lost control. So you must become decisive. Ruthless, with what you allow into your mind. Because your mind is not a playground. It's a battlefield. And on a battlefield, hesitation is defeat. So the next time a toxic thought appears, you don't sit with it. You don't entertain it. You cut it off. Immediately. You replace it. Immediately. You redirect your focus. Immediately. Because speed is power. The faster you respond, the weaker the thought becomes. The slower you respond, the stronger it grows. Now let's go deeper. Because some toxic thoughts are not loud. They are quiet. Subtle. They don't scream at you. They whisper. I'll do it tomorrow. It's not that important. One more time won't hurt. And these thoughts are even more dangerous. Because they don't feel negative. They feel reasonable. They feel harmless. But they slowly destroy your discipline. They slowly weaken your standards. They slowly turn you into someone who delays, avoids, and settles. And over time, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. So you must become aware of these thoughts too. The comfortable ones. The lazy ones. The ones that sound like excuses dressed as logic. Because growth does not come from comfort. It comes from resistance. It comes from doing what your mind is trying to avoid. It comes from choosing discipline, even when you don't feel like it. And this is where your identity begins to shift. Because you stop seeing yourself as someone who is controlled by thoughts. And you start seeing yourself as someone who controls them. You become stronger. Calmer. More focused. Not because life got easier. But because your mind got sharper. Now here's something powerful. Your environment feeds your thoughts. The people you listen to. The content you consume. The conversations you engage in. All of it shapes your mindset. If you surround yourself with negativity, your thoughts will reflect it. If you constantly consume fear, doubt, and distraction, your mind will produce more of the same. So if you're serious about killing toxic thoughts, you must protect your environment. Be intentional. Be selective. Be disciplined. Because not everything deserves access to your mind. And that includes people. Not everyone around you wants to see you grow. Not everyone benefits from your transformation. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that doubts, hesitates, and stays small. Because it makes them feel safe. So when you start changing, they might question you. They might doubt you. They might even try to pull you back. And in those moments, you must stand firm. Because this is your life. Your mind. Your future. And no one else gets to control it. Now let's talk about something deeper. The root of toxic thoughts. Because they don't come from nowhere. They are built over time. From past experiences. From failures. From rejection. From moments where you felt not enough. And your mind tries to protect you from feeling that pain again. By creating doubt. By creating fear. By holding you back. But here's the problem. What was once protection has now become limitation. It's no longer helping you. It's hurting you. And if you want to move forward, you must be willing to let go of that old version of yourself. The one who was afraid. The one who hesitated. The one who believed every negative thought. Because that version of you cannot take you where you're trying to go. And this is not easy. Because it requires honesty. It requires facing yourself. It requires admitting that some of the thoughts you've been holding on to have been holding you back. But once you accept that, you gain power. Because now, you can change it. And change begins with repetition. Daily effort. Daily awareness. Daily discipline. You don't wait until you feel motivated. You act anyway. You don't wait until it feels easy. You push anyway. Because every time you override a toxic thought, you strengthen your mind. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build resilience. Every time you refuse to go back, you move forward. And eventually, something incredible happens. The thoughts that once controlled you start to lose their voice. They become weaker, quieter, less frequent. Until one day, you notice something different. You're no longer doubting yourself the way you used to. You're no longer hesitating the way you used to. You're no longer holding yourself back the way you used to. And that's when you realize you've changed. Not overnight. But through consistent effort. Through discipline. Through refusing to give power to the thoughts that once controlled you. And this is how you kill toxic thoughts. Not by wishing them away, but by replacing them, challenging them, overriding them, every single day, until they no longer have a place in your mind. So as you move forward from this moment, remember this. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not defined by the thoughts in your head. You are defined by what you choose to do with them. And from today, you choose differently. You choose strength. You choose discipline. You choose control. Because your mind is yours. And no toxic thought will ever take that away from you again. If this message spoke to you, if something inside you shifted, then don't let this be just another video you watched and forgot. Act on it. Live it. Apply it. And most importantly, continue this journey. Subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this is more than motivation. This is transformation. And your best version is waiting on the other side of the thoughts you're about to leave behind. Good, because if you think you're done after what you just heard, you're not even close. This is where most people make a mistake. They listen. They feel inspired. They nod their head and say, yes, this is exactly what I needed. And then they go right back to the same thinking patterns that have been quietly destroying them. Because information alone doesn't change you. Repetition does. And what you're about to hear is what will separate you from the version of yourself that keeps losing to your own mind. There are moments, quiet ones, when everything slows down. No distractions. No noise. Just you and your thoughts. And in those moments, the truth shows up. Not the version you show people. Not the strong face you put on. But the real thoughts. The ones that say, "You're falling behind. You should be further ahead. You're not doing enough." And suddenly, your chest tightens. Your energy drops. Your confidence disappears. Because toxic thoughts don't just speak. They make you feel. And once they control how you feel, they control what you do next. You withdraw. You procrastinate. You doubt every step. And slowly, you begin to sabotage your own life. Not because you want to fail. But because your mind has convinced you that failure is inevitable. But here's something most people never realize. Your mind doesn't know the difference between truth and repetition. If you tell yourself something long enough, it becomes your reality. Even if it started as a lie. Think about that. How many lies have you repeated to yourself until they felt real? I'm not disciplined. I'm not smart enough. I can't stay consistent. You didn't wake up believing those things. You learned them. You reinforced them. You repeated them until they became your identity. And that means something powerful. If you learned it, you can unlearn it. But unlearning is uncomfortable. Because it forces you to confront something deeper than thoughts. It forces you to confront your identity. Who you believe you are. Because toxic thoughts don't just sit on the surface. They attach themselves to your sense of self. I'm an overthinker. I'm always anxious. I'm just not confident. Listen carefully. Every time you say, "I am," your mind listens. And it obeys. So when you constantly attach negativity to your identity, you trap yourself in a cycle you don't even realize you're feeding. But what happens when you change that language? What happens when instead of saying, "I'm not confident," you say, "I'm learning to become confident"? It's subtle. But it's powerful. Because now, you're no longer stuck. You're in motion. And movement breaks mental chains. Now let's go deeper into something uncomfortable. Some of your toxic thoughts feel justified. Because they're based on real experiences. You tried, and failed. You trusted, and got hurt. You hoped, and got disappointed. So your mind says, "Don't try again. Don't trust again. Don't expect too much." And it feels logical. It feels protective. But in reality, it's keeping you trapped in your past. Because every time you let yesterday define your thinking today, you give your past control over your future. And that is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Because you stop growing. You stop risking. You stop becoming. All because your mind is trying to protect you from pain that already happened. But growth requires risk. It requires stepping into uncertainty. It requires doing things, even when your mind is screaming at you not to. And this is where courage is born. Not in the absence of fear. But in the decision to move forward, despite it. There's another layer to this. And it's one most people avoid completely. Accountability. Because it's easy to blame your thoughts. It's easy to say, "My mind is the problem." But here's the truth. You are responsible for what you allow to stay. Yes, thoughts come automatically. But what you do with them? That's a choice. And every time you allow a toxic thought to sit in your mind, without challenging it, you are choosing it. That's hard to accept. But it's also empowering. Because if it's a choice, then it can be changed. Now imagine this version of you. The one who doesn't entertain negativity. The one who doesn't spiral over small setbacks. The one who doesn't collapse under pressure. That version of you still has thoughts. Still feels doubt. Still experiences fear. But they don't obey it. They observe it. They question it. They override it. And that's the difference. Not perfection. But control. Control is built in moments. Small ones. The moment you decide to get up, when your mind says stay down. The moment you take action, when your mind says wait. The moment you stay consistent, when your mind says quit. These moments seem insignificant. But they stack. And over time, they build a version of you that no longer breaks under pressure. Because you've trained yourself to act beyond your thoughts. Now let's talk about something that silently fuels toxic thinking. Comparison. You scroll. You watch others succeed. You see people ahead of you. And without even realizing it, your mind starts whispering. You're behind. You're not doing enough. You'll never catch up. And just like that, your focus shifts from growth to insecurity. But what you're comparing is your reality to someone else's highlight. You don't see their struggles. You don't see their failures. You don't see the moments they doubted themselves, just like you are now. So why measure your life against something incomplete? Comparison doesn't motivate you. It drains you. It distracts you. It disconnects you from your own path. And the moment you bring your focus back to yourself, everything becomes clearer. Because your only competition is who you were yesterday. And then comes one of the most important shifts you will ever make. You stop trying to feel good all the time. And you start training yourself to act, regardless of how you feel. Because feelings are unstable. They change. They fluctuate. They lie. Some days you'll feel motivated. Some days you won't. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you'll feel like giving up. And if your actions depend on how you feel, you will never stay consistent. But when your actions are driven by discipline, everything changes. You show up, even when it's hard. You move forward, even when it's uncomfortable. You stay committed, even when your mind is trying to pull you back. And that's when you become dangerous. Not to others, but to the version of yourself that used to hold you back. Because that version, it starts to fade. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day, it's gone. And in its place is someone stronger. Sharper. Unshaken. Someone who doesn't collapse under negative thoughts, but rises above them. So if you're listening to this right now, take this seriously. This is not just motivation. This is a warning. Because if you don't take control of your thoughts, they will take control of your life. They will decide your limits. They will shape your future. They will keep you in a place you were never meant to stay. But if you do take control, if you commit to this process, if you refuse to go back, there is no limit to who you can become. So from this moment forward, be aware. Be disciplined. Be intentional. Guard your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. And every time a toxic thought tries to take over, remember this. You don't negotiate with it. You don't entertain it. You don't become it. You destroy it. Completely. And if you're ready to keep building this mindset, to keep evolving, to keep becoming stronger every single day, then stay connected. Subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning.